Just two. They one group of students brought a lawsuit in the Second Circuit, brought a lawsuit in New York, and it was dismissed. It was thrown out. They said, you can't bring it because you weren't named in the case. And they had to appeal that up to the Second Circuit. They waited years to have their chance, and they went back, and Rolling Stone settled that case. But, you know, it's a long process in litigation.
It's unbelievable. Well, 50 years ago, you would have been a liberal hero for doing what you're doing. And I'm sure now they mock you. Libby, thanks very much for what you're doing, for coming and
talking
to us about it. I really appreciate it. Well, it's been an unbelievable day, but it's not over. Stay right here for continued coverage of Brett Kavanaugh and the hearing that happened today. And, of course, we'll be back tomorrow for the show that is the sworn enemy of lying, pomposity, smugness, and groupthink. We have a special guest on the set tonight.
Lying, pomposity.
And we have a special present for the guest. The guest, of course, is Sean Hannity. You will recognize. This is our Eric Wemple.
Your last guest was great. I can't top. That was a really good interview.
This commemorates Eric Wemple, the Washington Post's appearance on our show. And there's a picture of how he responded. I want you to drink coffee out of that and toast to his good health. No!
Like a football? Great show today. By the way, this is just breaking. Bob Corker tweeted out he's a yes for Judge Kavanaugh, and Jeff Flake saying that it's a tough decision. And then, of course, we have Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, and we're going to be watching very closely.
Be hard to vote against, I think.
Good show tonight. Thank you for letting me use your studio.
Oh, love it.
All right, welcome to Hannity. We're broadcasting live. We're in the swamp, Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, where the future of this very country in so many different ways is at stake tonight. And the Senate is now on the verge of what will be a historic vote. And for all of you good, honest, hardworking taxpayers that do all the hard work every day and raise your kids and love God, faith, family, and country, there's a lot under attack. We're going to break it all down for you. And you know what? Unable to stop this man's nomination based on merit for the past 2 weeks, we have now witnessed people in this country that are elected officials, Democrats, attempting to literally destroy the character, the career, the life of Judge Brett Kavanaugh. They have tried to utterly ruin what turns out to be a good man. No due process, no presumption of innocence, and literally no corroboration at all. And shamefully, they're using an almost 4 decades old sexual misconduct allegation as a political ploy. And they're demanding that a man with what is an impeccable 40-year track record prove his innocence from charges featuring, again, no corroboration, no location, no date, all because Brett Kavanaugh is appointed by Donald Trump and has a more conservative judicial philosophy. And Democrats now, by the way, as we speak, sadly, this is a sad night, criminalizing ideology. And if they successfully block this nomination, nobody is safe from these types of smears. Senator Lindsey Graham, who had a powerful moment at today's hearing, will join us. But first, it is time for our D.C. breaking news. There's so much of it. Opening monologue. So today, after weeks of being smeared by Democrats, called evil, accused of rape and gang rape, being compared to Bill Cosby, after weeks of vile death threats against his family, after weeks of being demonized all over television and in most major newspapers, well, today, Brett Kavanaugh finally had a chance under oath to clear his good name. Dramatic testimony today, powerful testimony. Watch this.
This confirmation process has become a national disgrace. The Constitution gives the Senate an important role in the confirmation process, but you have replaced advice and consent with search and destroy. Since my nomination in July, there's been a frenzy on the left to come up with something, anything, to block my confirmation. Shortly after I was nominated, the Democratic Senate leader said he would, quote, oppose me with everything he's got. A Democratic senator on this committee publicly referred to me as evil. Given comments like those, is it any surprise that people have been willing to do anything, to make any physical threat against my family, to send any violent email to my wife, to make any kind of allegation against me and against my friends, to blow me up and take me down? You sowed the wind. For decades to come, I fear that the whole country will reap the whirlwind.
Judge Kavanaugh also had this to say about the process and his family and what they have been forced to endure, again, with zero corroboration, no presumption of innocence, no due process. Watch this.
The behavior of several of the Democratic members of this committee at my hearing a few weeks ago was an embarrassment. But at least it was just a good old-fashioned attempt at borking. Those efforts didn't work. When I did at least okay enough at the hearings that it looked like I might actually get confirmed, a new tactic was needed. Some of you were lying in wait and had it ready. This first allegation was held in secret for weeks by a Democratic member of this committee and by staff. It would be needed only if you couldn't take me out on the merits. When it was needed, this allegation was unleashed and publicly deployed over Dr. Ford's wishes. This whole 2-week effort has been a calculated and orchestrated political hit, fueled with apparent pent-up anger about President Trump and the 2016 election, fear that has been unfairly stoked about my judicial record, revenge on behalf of the Clintons, and millions of dollars in money from outside left-wing opposition groups. This is a circus. The consequences will extend long past my nomination. The consequences will be with us for decades.
And after those powerful remarks, Judge Kavanaugh addressed his accuser, Professor Christine Ford. Take a look at this emotional moment from earlier today.
I have never done this to her or to anyone. That's not who I am. It is not who I was. I am innocent of this charge. I intend no ill will to Dr. Ford and her family. The other night, Ashley and my daughter Liza said their prayers, and little Liza, all of 10 years old, said to Ashley, we should pray for the woman. It's a lot of wisdom from a 10-year-old.
We were airing that on my radio show. A lot of people around me, guys, girls, they all were crying. 10-year-old little girl, powerful moment. And she's absolutely right. But let's take a moment to review the charges from Professor Ford. Her allegations were made in July to a Democratic member of Congress. She claims, well, those claims come back 36 years, nearly 4 decades. And I've been saying she deserved to be heard from the very beginning. These allegations are serious. They were taken seriously by the president, by the Senate, and by everybody except, and I'll explain. But she doesn't remember a date, day of the week, location, how she got to or from the party where the alleged crime took place. All 4 witnesses that Professor Ford listed to corroborate her claims, they all deny what she is alleging. All 4 in sworn statements under penalty of felony. Let me repeat. All witnesses have given sworn statements under the penalty of felony. That means you can go to jail. To the Democrats, what that means is this has been investigated. The people that were there have already spoken. And it includes Professor Ford's friend. Her name, Leland Kaiser. Her attorney released a statement. It reads, quote, simply put, Ms. Kaiser does not know Mr. Kavanaugh and has no recollection of ever being at a party or gathering where he was present with or without Dr. Ford. Now, today, the Senate's independent prosecutor asked her about this irrefutable fact. Take a look.
Are you aware that they say that they have no memory or knowledge of such a party?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any particular motives to ascribe to Leland?
I guess we could take those one at a time. Leland has significant health challenges, and I'm happy that she's focusing on herself and getting the health treatment that she needs. And she let me know that she needed her lawyer to take care of this for her, and she texted me right afterward with an apology and good wishes and etc. So I'm glad that she's taking care of herself.
Now, today's testimony from Professor Ford actually raised more questions than it answered, including this moment about Ford's recent polygraph test. Let's take a look at this.
Why was that location chosen for the polygraph?
I had left my grandmother's funeral at Fort Lincoln Cemetery that day and was on tight schedule to get a plane to Manchester, New Hampshire. So he was willing to come to me, which was appreciated.
So he administered a polygraph on the day that you attended your grandmother's funeral?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Or it might have been the next day. I spent the night in the hotel, so I don't remember the exact day.
Did you pay for the polygraph yourself?
I don't think so.
Okay. Do you know who did pay for the polygraph?
Not yet, no.
I believe you said it hasn't been paid for yet. Is that correct?
Let me put an end to this mystery. Her lawyers have paid for her polygraph.
As is routine.
As is routine.
Is it your understanding that someone else is going to assist you with some of these fees, including the cost for your polygraph?
I'm aware that there's been several GoFundMe sites that I haven't had a chance to figure out how to manage those because I've never had one.
Now, just to recap, Professor Ford doesn't remember when the incident in question happened. She doesn't remember where the incident happened. She's given inconsistent answers about this important detail. She doesn't remember exactly who attended the party in question. She's given inconsistent answers about this detail. She doesn't remember how she got to the alleged party. She doesn't remember how she got back from the party. And not one person corroborates her story. We also learned today that she doesn't remember if she handed the Washington Post therapy notes just a few weeks ago. Now, just minutes ago, the Wall Street Journal editorial board fully endorsed the confirmation of Judge Brett Kavanaugh. And also moments ago, we learned that Senator Mitch McConnell announced the Judicial Committee, the Senate Judicial Committee, Judiciary Committee, in the morning, they are moving forward, he said. And moments ago, Senator Bob Corker of Tennessee announced on Twitter that he will vote yes on Brett Kavanaugh. But none of this matters, seemingly, to people on the other side. It shouldn't be about Republican or Democrat, liberal, conservative at all. They wanted and stated from the beginning they wanted to ruin Judge Brett Kavanaugh, and over unsubstantiated, uncorroborated claims from nearly 4 decades ago. For the left at this point, it's not about sexual misconduct. Otherwise, they'd be talking about Keith Ellison. They would have had more harsh statements about Bill Clinton. This has not been about protecting victims or finding the truth even. To them, from day one, Chuck Schumer leading the way, this has all been political. It is a sad day for the country, what we had to witness today. The worst part of this is Senator Dianne Feinstein knew about these claims since July. She knew about these charges when she actually met with Kavanaugh in private. She knew about these claims when she questioned him during his public hearing several weeks ago. And when she met privately with Brett Kavanaugh, she had already been recommending attorneys to Professor Ford. Now, only after Brett Kavanaugh's nomination looked imminent did Dianne Feinstein and Democrats announce Ford's allegations. This has been a disgraceful display of politics at its worst. Is re-election more important than another person's life here? Did anybody hear the pain in Brett Kavanaugh's voice today? And by the way, I would argue, too, Professor Ford, as Susan Collins has said, nobody's been served well here. She wished to remain anonymous. The story got leaked. Her name got leaked. And without any corroboration or evidence, then you had politicians smearing Kavanaugh again and again on national TV. This is but a small sampling. Take a look.
The Senate shouldn't simply rely on hearing two conflicting accounts and decide, well, we're okay with not knowing. We're okay with the fact that we might be putting someone who committed attempted rape on the Supreme Court of the United States.
I believe her. Listen, first of all, anybody who comes forward at this point to be prepared to testify in the United States Senate against someone who's being nominated to one of the most powerful positions in the United States government, that takes an extraordinary amount of courage.
Not only do women like Dr. Ford, who bravely comes forward, need to be heard, but they need to be believed. They need to be believed. I just want to say to the men of this country, just shut up and step up. Do the right thing.
Let me just say right at the outset, I believe Dr. Ford, I believe the survivor here. There's every reason to believe her. She has come forward courageously and bravely.
I believe her. I stand with her. And
do you hope she shows up on Monday? Do you hope that she testifies?
I don't think she should be bullied into this scenario where it's a he said, she said. It's a sham hearing. And I don't think she should participate in it.
I believe Professor Ford. I think she's credible. And I think when the investigation is finished and when she testifies and Judge Kavanaugh testifies, I think a majority of senators will find her credible.
And the smears continued during the hearing, and today Democrats ramping up their favorite new talking point. We must have an FBI investigation. Now, this is, of course, all a political stall tactic. They want to delay. They hope we get to the midterms. They hope they win, and they hope they stop Donald Trump from fulfilling a campaign promise and a constitutional obligation. Watch the echo chamber, and on the other side of this, I'm going to explain why this is phony, and they know it. Take a look.
The behavior of several of the Democratic members of this committee at my hearing a few weeks ago was an embarrassment. But at least it was just a good old-fashioned attempt at borking. Those efforts didn't work. When I did at least okay enough at the hearings that it looked like I might actually get confirmed, a new tactic was needed. Some of you were lying in wait and had it ready. This first allegation was held in secret for weeks by a Democratic member of this committee and by staff. It would be needed only if you couldn't take me out on the merits. When it was needed, this allegation was unleashed and publicly deployed over Dr. Ford's wishes. This whole 2-week effort has been a calculated and orchestrated political hit, fueled with apparent pent-up anger about President Trump and the 2016 election, fear that has been unfairly stoked about my judicial record, revenge on behalf of the Clintons, and millions of dollars in money from outside left-wing opposition groups. This is a circus. The consequences will extend long past my nomination. The consequences will be with us for decades.
Now, an FBI investigation does not make conclusions. They all knew this. It would interview everybody that has already been interviewed, and a report would then be issued. That's it. The Democrats know it. In 1991, then Senator Joe Biden suggested that these FBI investigations are actually useless. His words, and they all agreed back then. Take a look.
The next person that refers to an FBI report as being worth anything obviously doesn't understand anything. FBI explicitly does not, in this or any other case, reach a conclusion. Period. Period. So, Judge, there's no reason why you should know this. The reason why we cannot rely on the FBI report, you wouldn't like it if we did, because it is inconclusive. They say he said, she said, and they said. Period. So when people wave an FBI report before you, understand, they do not reach conclusions. They do not make, as my friend points out more adequate, they do not make recommendations.
Remember, all witnesses, all in this case, gave sworn statements under the threat of felony. Democrats have turned this important process into a political sham. They have turned advice and consent into destroy, malign. They can't care whose life is destroyed in this process. Obviously, they don't. Did they not see what went on today to Judge Kavanaugh, the impact on him, his family, the women making these allegations as they withheld them for all those weeks? They just want Kavanaugh stopped at all costs. Today, no one seems to put this in better perspective than Senator Lindsey Graham. What was a powerful moment when he took on the Democrats. Take a look.
What you want to do is destroy this guy's life, hold this seat open, and hope you win in 2020. You've said that, not me. You've got nothing to apologize for. When you see Sotomayor and Kagan, tell them that Lindsay said hello, because I voted for them. I would never do to them what you've done to this guy. This is the most unethical sham since I've been in politics. I cannot imagine what you and your family have gone through. Boy, y'all want power. God, I hope you never get it. I hope the American people can see through this sham, that you knew about it and you held it. You had no intention of protecting Dr. Ford. None. She's as much of a victim as you are. God, I hate to say it because these have been my friends. But let me tell you, when it comes to this, you're looking for a fair process. You came to the wrong town at the wrong time, my friend. To my Republican colleagues, if you vote no, you're legitimizing the most despicable thing I have seen in my time in politics.
Senator Graham will join us in studio in just a moment. And after those passionate remarks, Senator Orrin Hatch called these proceedings worse than any other confirmation proceedings in history, including those of Judge Bork and Judge Thomas. Let's watch this.
The circus atmosphere that has been created since my Democratic colleagues first leaked Dr. Ford's allegations to the media 2 weeks ago, after sitting on them for 6 weeks, I might add, has brought us the worst in our politics. It certainly has brought us no closer to the truth. Anonymous letters with no name and no return address are now being treated as national news. Porn star lawyers with facially implausible claims are driving the news cycle. I hate to say this, but this is worse than Robert Bork, and I didn't think it could get any worse than that. This is worse than Clarence Thomas. I didn't think it could get any worse than that. This is a national disgrace, the way you're being treated.
This is sadly the Democratic playbook. I warn people every single 2 years, every 4 years on my radio show and right here on this show. Republicans, be prepared to be demonized, racist, sexist, misogynist, xenophobic, homophobic, Islamophobic. You want dirty air, water, you want to kill children, and there'll be some Paul Ryan lookalike throwing your grandmother over the cliff because Republicans want Granny to die. And it's the same now with Supreme Court nominees, same predictable behavior. We've now come to expect this. This has to change. This country deserves better. The people of this country deserve better. These people in D.C., in this swamp, they are supposed to serve us, you, we, the people. It's not about a Republican, Democrat, liberal, or conservative here. This is pure human decency that was in play today. They destroyed this man and his family. They bludgeoned him, all for the sake of power. There was zero presumption of innocence here or due process. Now the Democratic Party, every 4 years, every time we have a nomination of the Supreme Court, we know what to expect. The party of slander, besmirchment, smears, character assassination, the party of no due process, no presumption of innocence, the party that rushes to judgment. Look at all the high-profile cases, rush to judgment. Duke lacrosse case, the Cambridge police acted stupidly, Ferguson, Missouri, Baltimore, Maryland, Richard Jewell, Trayvon Martin. Is this the party that's going to decide the fate of this country? Because in 40 days, that same party wants you to go out and vote for them. Look at your screen. You see these Republican senators? These are the people who will decide the fate of the Kavanaugh nomination. Right there. Those are the people that will decide if we still have due process in this country, if these principles exist in this country, if we still have laws predicated on the Constitution. Let them know how to vote. Call them. Tell them what's at stake. Let them know what you felt today watching these hearings. And if you're in one of these states where Donald Trump won, West Virginia, Joe Manchin, North Dakota, Heidi Heitkamp, Indiana, Joe Donnelly, your Democratic senators up for re-election. If they don't confirm Judge Kavanaugh and they go along with the smear campaign, if they go ahead and do that, are you going to vote for them? Now, there is a lot in the next few days, weeks, and months that we're going to decide, and we have a lot to get to in the course of this program tonight. I just want to say what we're looking at right here tonight, what you're looking at, you get to hold them accountable for their decisions. Never has a Supreme Court nomination been more important. This country is at a tipping point. Inalienable rights of Americans, they're going to continue, or we are going to never be able to go back. Our Constitution, all these core principles hang in the balance tonight. And we have one party that has thrown all of this to the wind and adopted smear, slander, personal politics of destruction. Unless good senators find a backbone and stick up for these core fundamental rights of every human being, like we've been talking about, due process, justice, law, order. Democrats take down Judge Kavanaugh, a man with an impeccable record of service, 40-year track record. They can take down anybody, any conservative, any politician, for any reason, on any allegation, with zero proof, ever. The Senate cannot let this happen. They cannot reward this behavior. Joining us now, South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham. Senator, good to see you. Thank you. Known you a long time.
Yeah, 20 years.
As it was happening, I was live on my radio show, and when I had my next break, I don't think you've ever had a more powerful moment in your career, and I've known you a long time.
Thank you. Well, I just told the truth. This is not about finding the truth between Dr. Ford and Brett Kavanaugh. It's about delaying the hearing until get past the midterms, hope they pick up the Senate, and denying this seat to be filled by Donald Trump. It's not about the FBI. If you really wanted to know what the FBI thought about this, you would have come forward when you first knew about it. It's certainly not about protecting Dr. Ford. The one thing I learned beyond any doubt today, is this: they never intended to protect Dr. Ford. And everything I believed I knew about Brett Kavanaugh, I am now more convinced than ever that he didn't do it, that he's the right guy to be on the court, that Ms. Ford has got a problem, and destroying Judge Kavanaugh's life won't fix her problem. And if we legitimize this, God help us all, because both sides can do this. To my friends on the other side, I would never have done this to one of your nominees. You should be ashamed.
You voted for people that I know you did not share their judicial philosophy.
Never picked. Used to be, if you're qualified, elections matter. Here's what the big picture is. Elections don't matter to them. They only matter when they win. Now, when we win, when Donald Trump wins, there are no rules. There are no boundaries. President Trump today, I hope you understand why he picked Brett Kavanaugh. Not only is he an incredibly qualified judge, an incredibly decent man, he and his wife are the parents of the year. If they're going to give an award for parenting, I'd give it to Ashley and Brett based on what his daughter said about who to pray for. So I'm honored to help him. If I helped him today, it's one of the highlights of my career. And to my Republican colleagues, if this guy goes down, then we don't deserve to stay in power, because it's not about power to me. It is about the process. It is about honoring elections. To my Democratic friends, Joe Manchin, I like him a lot. Joe, you can't figure this out. Trump won by 40 points. Do you really believe that Brett Kavanaugh is a serial rapist? Do you believe any of this garbage? You know, I'm sorry that Dr. Ford went through this. She shouldn't have had to go through it. But I am convinced beyond any shadow of a doubt that Brett Kavanaugh is not the man that they're trying to make him, and this is all political. So, Joe, I hope you'll step up. Heidi, I like you a lot. Joe Donnelly, great guy. Why can't you talk about whether or not we've met the burden here? If he had to prove he was innocent, he did it for me, but he doesn't have to.
Let me ask you, Republicans met in conference tonight in the Senate. Bring us inside the meeting as much as you are able to share.
It went well. I think everybody was blown away by Brett. Can you imagine doing what he did today?
No.
Your life has been ripped apart. You had a 32-hour hearing. You meet with every senator. They've known about this for weeks, and they spring it on you at the end. Then it goes to where Hannity comes out and says you're a serial rapist, you drug women.
No, gang rape and boys lining the halls. And
your whole life is just absolutely destroyed. I think Republicans today felt like Brett Kavanaugh not only met the test, passed the test, that this is political, and I will be brokenhearted if the Senate rejects this good man.
Bob Corker said yes.
Good for Bob.
Jeff Flake off camera said this is a tough one.
Well, I would just say, Jeff, it is tough because I don't know what happened to Dr. Ford, but I've been a lawyer all my life. I used to do this stuff for a living. Jeff, you couldn't get a warrant. She can't tell you where it happened, when it happened. It's not he said, she said. It's that she said and they said. All people named said it didn't happen.
All four.
And you can't give the date and the time. And my God, he went through a calendar of 1982. This is the most squared away guy I've ever met in my life. I was just honored to be in his presence. Again, I've never seen anybody command a room like he did. I've never seen anybody more sincere. And I've never seen anybody more used and abused than Dr. Ford was by the Democrats.
Let me ask you, it seems Jeff Flake, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, and I've actually been quoting Susan Collins because she's the one that
Susan's
rightly pointed
really
out from the beginning, this has been unfair to both sides here. And she's right. She's been right about that.
Yeah. Well, what I would tell Susan is that if you're the way they say Brett is, you wouldn't have the life Brett has lived. You wouldn't have 65 women coming forward. You wouldn't have 6 FBI investigations that found nothing. You wouldn't be in this profile of a job. He's been in the highest levels of government, a target for 26 years. You find out about it after the hearing's over. They knew about it. They sat on it. There's no corroboration. And the Hannity thing tells you all they need to know about where they're headed with him. If we delay this, there'll be more coming, and he doesn't deserve it. It is time to vote.
The Senate Judiciary Committee will meet tomorrow morning.
Yeah,
to walk us through the process. The full Senate will vote, we expect, what, Tuesday?
Yeah, we will vote tomorrow in committee. I will go through why I believe he's qualified and capable. I will tell you without any hesitation what I think's happened here in the confirmation process. If this is the new norm, God help us all, I think he will get reported out of committee along a party line vote. I hope Jeff can get there. I would just stress again that this man has led an incredible life. Everything they're saying about him is made up, and it comes out of the left field, and it's not corroborated. Please don't take away everything he's done. He's the #1 in his class ever since he's done anything, and I think we're going to get him confirmed. And if we go to the floor of the Senate, we're going to pick up some Democrats. Let me tell you this: if you live in these Trump states and you can't figure this out, good luck to you.
Let me ask you one last question. As you look at the emotion of today and all that happened, I have my best friend from 3rd grade. His name is John Gomez, and John called me yesterday. He goes, Hannity, because you always say every 2-4 years, Republicans are racist, sexist, my whole list, as he calls it.
Yeah.
And he goes, I think I understand it a little more now why you always do it, because when you say these horrible things, and now we've gotten used to it, we expect it. It's like my father was killed all over again. Elect Republicans and black churches will burn, or crosses are going to burn. Or Republicans don't want to count African Americans in the census, Al Gore said. This has to stop, Senator.
Well, those are political arguments that we can handle, and people obviously don't buy it.
Though, isn't it?
This is destroying somebody.
Yeah.
I would hope and pray that I never get this desperate as a political person to destroy somebody. This was a wholesale effort to take a good man and ruin his life, and it backfired on him. This is not about political arguments. This is not about what they will do, what we will do. This is about the fact that they were willing to set a man up and destroy his life. And
it was hard to watch this today.
It was really hard to watch. And when he talked about his daughter, let's pray for the lady too. This is a good man. Please vote for him.
Senator, I think the reason your moment was so powerful is it was raw and real and unplanned.
It was totally real.
I think you reflected the views of many Americans.
You know what got me was, why won't you agree to the FBI investigation? What do you got to hide? These are the same people that sat on the information that made it impossible for us to do an investigation because they wouldn't help us, knew it for weeks, planned what they're doing, intentionally, I am convinced, outed Dr. Ford for the political moment that we saw today.
Sad.
And it blew up in their face, and I hope America understands that if this is the new way of doing business, we're going in the wrong direction, and we got a chance to turn it around beginning tomorrow at 9:30.
And in 40 days, the American people get their chance. Yeah. Senator, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it. All right, for the latest on how Capitol Hill is reacting to today's hearings, we go to Ed Henry. Ed.
Sean, good to see you. Breaking tonight, as you just noted a moment ago, Republican Bob Corker, he was sitting on the fence. He just announced he is a yes for Judge Brett Kavanaugh's nomination to the Supreme Court. We're also learning the Senate Judiciary Committee will meet tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, expected to vote. Then they hope to get it to the Senate floor. That's going to be the real fight, could come as early as Tuesday. Now, after several hours of testimony by Dr. Ford and Judge Kavanaugh, these are still uncorroborated charges, so lawmakers in both parties are basically unmoved. Some Democrats have been opposed since the night Kavanaugh was nominated. Many Republicans say, as you just heard from Lindsey Graham, this was character assassination and that there are several holes to Dr. Ford's story. So this is going to come down to a handful of votes. Look at these folks right here. Republican Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, Jeff Flake, plus Democrat Joe Manchin, maybe a couple other Democrats from red states. The four lawmakers you see there, they met tonight behind closed doors for 30 minutes to think about what exactly they're going to do next. They're keeping their cards close for now. Now, Democrat Chris Coons tonight called for a one-week delay in the proceedings, perhaps hoping to get momentum for a new FBI investigation that does not seem likely to happen. Republican John Cornyn, meanwhile, said the longer Republicans wait to vote, there will just be more unverified allegations thrown at Kavanaugh. Cornyn declaring that this idea that the judge is guilty until proven innocent is like a police state. Watch.
It's time to vote. The longer that the nomination remains open, we know that more and more of these scurrilous, anonymous, and uncorroborated allegations will be made. Unfortunately, that's part of the search and destroy process that, frankly, I think is an embarrassment to the Senate.
That is sort of the lingering core concern here, is about his credibility. He's worked very hard to put forward the aspects of his life that are admirable, that fit the choir boy narrative. But I think it's undeniable that there's a whole series of incidents and events in his life that also fit the frat boy image.
Republicans have only 51 votes in the Senate, so they can only afford to lose one Republican. If they lose two, Kavanaugh could go down unless they get Manchin or other Democrats on board, Sean. That's why those four we showed on the screen a moment ago, they're on the fence. They are key to all of this, Sean.
All right. By the way, Senator Jerry Moran. When we come back, we've got so much more reaction, a lot more breaking news. We're going to break down where senators are coming out. They seem to be coming out by the minute now. Bob Corker, yes, and we'll have the latest vote count when we get back. We'll check in with Matt Schlapp, Sarah Carter, Carrie Severino, and later a glaring example of huge liberal hypocrisy. Juanita Broderick will join us in studio. Where were these people then? Straight ahead.
We opened our doors with 70 megawatts, 35 mules, and an ice plant. But we brought power to the people, redefining what that meant from one era to the next. Over 90 years later, we continue to build as one of the nation's largest investors in infrastructure. We don't just help power the American dream, we're part of it. This is our era. This is America's energy era. Next Era Energy.
Give us the work no one else wants to do. We don't just go against the grain, we grow it. Give us the frontiers, the places where success is measured and pushed limits. Give us the middle of nowhere, where the only map is your buddy's tread marks. This life, no one's born ready for it.
Now first in line and will be answered by the next available representative. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for holding. How may I assist you?
Hi, yes. We were just broken into, and we need a home security system.
Oh, sorry, wrong department. Please hold.
The best home security isn't hard to get. With SimpliSafe, you can get comprehensive, professionally monitored home security online without the hold time or runaround. Anyone can set up SimpliSafe in under an hour. There are no tools needed. Just open the box, plug it in, and your family's protected around the clock. Each SimpliSafe system is a thoughtfully assembled security arsenal. From entry and motion sensors to a high-definition security camera, you'll have everything you need to keep your family safe. If someone tries to break in, you can see what happened right on your phone. Our monitoring center will call to make sure you're safe and immediately dispatch police to your home.
All clear. Alarm must have scared him off.
Simply Safe's professional security is so reliable, it was named Central Station of the Year. And with Simply Safe, 24/7 protection is just $15 a month. There are no long-term contracts or commitments, so you're free to start or cancel monitoring when you need to. CNET called Simply Safe Comprehensive, Easy-to-Use Protection, naming it Editor's Choice for home security. And it has over 30,000 5-star reviews on Google. Each system comes with a 60-day risk-free guarantee. Order today and get free shipping. You'll feel safe at home or your money back. Start protecting your home today. Go to GetSimplySafe.com.
Have you ever seen something so beautiful that all you could say was, wow? Or walked on the world's best beach at a place that made you feel like you were in a dream, where family comes first and fun is measured one ride at a time? They're all about a good life. Where you're served like royalty, but treated like family. Beaches, Turks, and Caicos, where anything is possible because everything is included. Wow! Get up to 65% off. Call 1-800-BEACHES.
Being in sales, if I go into a customer and have coffee breath all day, it's not going to go over very well.
If somebody has bad breath, you just want to kind of stay away from them. It's pretty gross.
Bad breath is sulfur gas. SmartMouth eliminates and blocks smelly sulfur gas for 24 hours.
I think it really does what it says it does. I have noticed a big difference.
That's because SmartMouth actually works. SmartMouth. Never have bad breath. Guaranteed.
All right, we're live in Washington, D.C. Kristen Fisher has the very latest on how lawmakers are now at this hour reacting to today's blockbuster hearings, and we're getting more information by the minute. What are you hearing, Kristen?
Yeah, and also more information from the White House, Sean. President Trump says that he was riveted by this hearing. He watched almost all of it from the White House, but he waited until after it was over to weigh in. And just minutes after the committee adjourned, he tweeted out his support for the nominee and his disdain for the way that Democrats on the Judiciary Committee had treated him. He said on Twitter, quote, "Judge Kavanaugh showed America exactly why I nominated him. His testimony was powerful, honest, and riveting. Democrats' search and destroy strategy is disgraceful, and this process has been a total sham." And concern within the West Wing that Judge Kavanaugh hadn't been forceful enough in his interview on Fox earlier this week. Clearly today, he did not have that problem. It's also clear that the White House was very pleased with Senator Lindsey Graham's performance. Both Kellyanne Conway and Sarah Sanders tweeted about it during the hearing. The White House press secretary said, quote, "Lindsey Graham has more decency and courage than every Democratic member of the committee combined. God bless him." And you know, Sean, that was a real turning point. So was Kavanaugh's opening statements after what many in the West Wing considered to be somewhat of a shaky start, because even they, some of them at least, conceded that Dr. Ford did appear to be credible. But by and large, Sean, President Trump very pleased with Judge Kavanaugh's performance today.
All right, Kristen Fisher, thank you. In Washington, here with reaction, Chief Counsel for Judicial Crisis Network, Carrie Severino, Chairman of the American Conservative Union, longtime friend of Judge Kavanaugh, Matt Slapp, Fox News contributor, Sarah Carter. I don't know about all of you. Everybody that I know that watched this today, so many people said it was hard and painful. They cried. It was to watch. You saw it. They destroyed this man's family. Allegations flying around everywhere. No corroboration on any of them.
Sean, it was riveting because I think the American people saw for the first time, really saw what was happening to this man, what was happening to Judge Kavanaugh and his family. And for the first time, I think we all realized as a nation, it's not that we're dismissing Dr. Ford. It's not that we're dismissing that maybe something did happen to her, but we're a system based on justice. You are innocent until proven guilty. And there was no evidence other than he said, she said, corroborating what happened, what Dr. Ford alleged happened to her. And I think at that point, when we hear this man cry out and say, look at what you've done to my family, look at what you've done to our nation, is this what we're going to do to each other? I think at that point, the country took a step back and people were swayed by Kavanaugh.
And I really thought Lindsey Graham became the leader of the U.S. Senate today.
Yeah, no, I have to tell you, I've had my differences with him, but I just saw him out in the green room.
So have I, by the way.
I gave him a bear
reminded
hug.
me tonight.
I gave him a bear hug. You know what we kept saying as we were shouting at the TV today was like, let Lindsey speak. He understands the moment, Sean. We're in a very unique moment. We're in a moment when we could actually get 5 votes on the Supreme Court for a constitutional order. We can actually have a Senate majority that follows through on promises, and we can still hold on to this House majority. It all comes down to this very basic thing. Do our supporters out there, our grassroots supporters, believe it when we say we're going to do things like confirm off that list? That tweet from our president, most presidents would have thrown this guy to the side at the first sight of all this controversy. He's stuck with him, and I'm proud of him.
Carrie?
Yeah, I think a lot of people saw, again, very, very emotional and compelling testimony from Dr. Ford. But then Judge Kavanaugh as well, you saw that. And it looks like, you know, maybe she was, as I think Kavanaugh himself said, maybe she may very well have experienced real sexual assault sometime in her life, but all of the facts piling up go to the point that he isn't the one who did it. You have all the people who she said were there, who testify to say, I don't think this party happened, or I wasn't at this party. I don't, or even her good friend, lifelong friend, who supports her in general, but says, I don't even think I know Brett Kavanaugh. I don't think I was at this party. So when you get past you know, trying to sort out the memories of the 30 years, there aren't any corroborating facts. That didn't change. In fact, even some of the facts in the story shifted. What you really could see, though, is the pain they've both been put through. All of that is the Senate Democrats. I think so many things came out that showed it's on.
That was the worst part.
Yeah, even some
manipulating an orchestrated attack. Look, there's no way, I've been in politics a long time, there's no way you have a charge one day, followed 12 or 18 hours by another attack, and then another accusation.
This is a 40-year career with not a single allegation. In 40 years, and then in the 11th and a half hour here, then they come flying in. Yeah. And it's sort of like, where does he go to get his good name back?
I'll tell you where he goes.
Where?
What he did today connected to the American people. It was raw. It was real. We're split 50-50, and we just have to realize this. These Supreme Court battles are going to be blue versus red. I hate it. That's where we are. We got to make sure our people understand what Brett told most of the fair-minded Americans out there is that we're better than this.
Is there any fair-minded Democrat? Is Joe Manchin, Heidi Heitkamp, Joe Donnelly, where are they?
Yeah, where are they? But one thing we do know for sure, Sean, the American people now see what we are up against. And they look at the Democrats and they're going to look at this and they are going to say, this is a sham. This is a disgrace. You've run 2 people through the mud and they're not going to put up with it anymore and they're going to go to the voting.
This is why, last word, Carrie, I make a big deal over every 2 to 4 years, racist, sexist, I run through my list, because it's got to stop.
It's got to stop.
Yeah, no, we can't let uncorroborated smears ruin a good man's reputation and life of public service. So I think